I started streaming, and I streamed for 4 hours a day. It was Monday through Friday from 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern. I would stream, and just nice and consistent, and then I'd post a clip on Twitter of just, whatever happened that day. And I ended up doing that for 180 days to no one. Like, no one liking the tweets, no one watching the streams. It was just me and my friends. Like, if there was 3 viewers in my stream, it was me on my laptop, me on my phone, me on my iPad, and then maybe one of my friends, maybe. And it really goes to show, like, I don't think that what I was doing was quality content at all. Like, I don't think that I deserved to be much more than what I was on then. But you really need to be consistent to understand what it takes to be a content creator, and especially doing it full time. If you're not on a consistent schedule or putting content out, at least to just keep yourself in check, even if no one's interacting with it. It really keeps you in check and motivates you to continue doing what you're doing, regardless of if you're seeing numbers or anything like that.
Hello, my name is Minges and welcome to Unfiltered Conversations with Creators. In this episode, we are joined by the one and only Breadman. Bread is one of the best competitors and streamers in the Warzone space. And today we get to hear all about his come-up story directly from the man himself. If you'd like to become part of the conversation, the Patreon will be linked down below. There you'll find bonus segments from each episode and give you the opportunity to ask questions to the future guests of the podcast. The Patreon is a huge help in bringing more creators on and giving us the opportunity to put forward more quality content. And as always, if you enjoyed the conversations, please consider leaving a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more conversations with creators. All right, Breadman. And so for you and for anyone else who hasn't been or seen the podcast before, I tend to start things off with a food-related question, just as a way to get things started, but also I'm trying to tie it in with the guest that's on. So this one might be a bit of a stretch, but stay with me. Hats at the dinner table. Is that rude? Is that bad manners, or what do you think?
Hats. I mean, honestly, in my family, you could go naked and it'd be fine. So I think the hats are completely fine.
Okay.
The more clothes, the merrier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you definitely want to be closed. But I know there's some people that think it's like really rude and all that stuff. But I think for obvious reasons, obviously you wear a lot of hats on stream, but literally wear a lot of hats. But I think metaphorically as well, you have a lot going on where you wear a lot of hats. You're a creator, you're an entertainer, you're a competitor, and also a businessman. So I want to touch on all those kinds of things as we progress. But for now, let's just get started with what you're into when you're growing up. Like, what was a young Breadman like?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, growing up, I played a lot of... I had a laptop growing up. I never had, like, a PC, but my laptop was good enough to where I could play, like, Minecraft without it exploding. It would get really hot, though. I'd sit on my bed and just back to, like, my bunk bed. I was on the top bunk all the time. And back to my bunk had a pillow between me and the, like, wooden, like, bed frame, and I would get off from like a 9-hour session. Just my pillow would be soaked with sweat. Like, I was gaming. I was playing so much Minecraft and CS. Dude, my laptop was so bad. Counter-Strike would literally crash if somebody threw a smoke grenade. Like, it was so bad. But I grew up playing a lot of games, and all my friends did too. It was pretty just standard to just get home and game all day, and that's really like where all this FPS started. As soon as I played PUBG for the first time, which was my first BR, I was just absolutely in love with battle royales in general.
Wait, okay, so the laptop, like, on your lap, or was it on a desk and you were just sitting on the bed?
Oh, no, it was on my lap, yeah. So I'd sit, like, legs out, back to the bed frame, and then put it on my lap, and then have my mouse, like, to my right side with a little mouse. Like, I'd use my sheets as a mouse pad sometime. Because, I mean... Your
legs would be cooking, though.
Oh, dude. They were cooking. My laptop got so hot that, like, I'd have to put, like, sheets between my legs and my... It was bad. It was bad. They were cooking. Like, I could have cooked an egg on it, for sure.
That's awesome, though. So you were basically just like gaming as a kid from the start, always playing FPS and stuff like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I loved them. I had a DS as well, and the first FPS that I played was this Metroid Prime Hunters game. It was like a multiplayer FPS game on the DS, and like I think back on it, and I'm like, dang, dude, the quality was so good. But then I look at pictures from the game on Google, and dude, it's so blurry. It looks like it's in 16-bit. Like, it looks awful. But I mean, back then, it was fire. It was really, really fun. I loved playing it. I always enjoyed, like, I'm not a big like gun fanatic, but like in games, I need to be shooting a gun like all the time.
I mean, I grew up, so I've been playing Call of Duty a long time. I'm a bit older than you, and even looking back at the old Black Ops games and stuff like that, at the time I was thinking as well, like my dad would look over my shoulder like, "Wow, this is so realistic and this looks so cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, it looks awesome." And then like you look back at it now and it's chalk and cheese now what you see, but it's terrible. But the old games, you think they were good, but they just look terrible now.
Yeah, I feel like we could be in that same kind of thing going on right now where like the games we played look so good, but maybe in 20, 30 years, we've got things that just blow it out of the water, like are just real. But it's so hard to conceptualize when you think about it. It's like, there's no way it could get better than this. We got games coming out that are in just the best quality ever. They almost look lifelike. So I'd be surprised if we reach that same level of progression that we had over the last 20 years for sure.
And when you were gaming, were you just like, this is like a casual thing, it was a hobby, or did you feel like a competitive side come out of you back then, and like you wanted to beat people, or it was just like you were chilling?
When I played a lot of Minecraft. I probably got like 15,000 hours in that game. And I played these servers. They were called faction servers. And basically the gist was like, you'd get on and you'd create clans with people and you'd try to see who could get the most money by the end of the wipe. There was like 90-day wipes. And it was pretty competitive. I mean, it wasn't competitive in the same sense that we're competing like in Warzone now, but it was, you had to do a task, you had to grind a lot. And the person who got the most money by the end of the 90 days they were him. I mean, they were that guy, and playing Counter-Strike as well. I mean, obviously I didn't have a competitive setup, but I was always wanting to win. It's not even like I didn't mind losing, but obviously it felt better winning, and doing that consistently felt great. And so I think that playing those faction servers on Minecraft and, trying to just kind of everyone's against themselves and each other at the same time. And then you go to Counter-Strike and you're just 5v5, if you lose it, I mean, it sucks, but you could play again. And I think it really taught me that, like, I mean, with no money on the line, it's still competitive, but I don't know. It taught me that I feel like people in this game, like Warzone specifically, like going really far ahead, they take losses in tournaments or whatever, and they think they're just the worst player ever, but you can't win all the time. I mean, you could be the best player ever, and you will not win all the time. And I think that playing those, like Minecraft and CS early, really taught me that, like, you could improve as much as you want, but don't beat yourself up when you lose, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's different levels to it. I think there's some people who take like their competitive side and it's like a life or death thing, or like there's something on the line even when there's nothing on the line. But yeah, when you grow up and you're kind of like, you play with friends and you realize you can play again. Obviously you don't want to lose all the time and you want to beat everyone, but it's good to learn to try and, because you got to regain. There's if you want to play again, there's another tournament or another fight you can get into next game, next day, next week, and you got to regain.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, with Joe and I have been a duo for so long now. Like, we both have content, other stuff going on other than competing, that, like, there's sometimes if we were to take a loss in a tournament or something, we're not immediately going to be like, oh, we're just the worst players ever, we're just going to quit type thing. It's just, we're staying nice and chill. We're getting better at our own pace. And I think that we've really, in the last 2-3 years, from where we started, I mean, the first tournament, I don't want to skip around. The first tournament that Joe and I played together, we almost got dead last place. And genuinely, I thought he was going to drop me. I'm not even kidding. I thought that he was going to be like, yeah, we can't play anymore together. But having those vibes and staying nice and chill, and I don't know what Joe's pass specifically was, but, me starting out playing kind of like competitive games, but half competitively, because I just didn't have the setup to play at the pace that other people were playing on, really just taught me that, it doesn't matter if you lose or whatever, as long as you're just consistently getting better and you're in a good headspace, you keep the vibes up. It's nice and solid that way.
Yeah. We're definitely going to touch on all that kind of stuff as we go along. But for now, like, how did you get into, were you ever watching, like YouTube videos or streams or things like that of other Minecrafters or, CS people or whatever? Were you looking for tips and tricks or like enjoying anyone's, content like that?
Yeah, so in Counter-Strike specifically, I watched a lot of Anomaly and just other people that kind of made content around the game but didn't play competitively. And then during like the height, I would say, of like CS, like 2013, 2014, 2015, I was like 12, 13, and I was loving the competitive CS majors. I was watching those, seeing all like the, cool moments that people look back on today and are like, I mean, that was history. It was like gaming history we were witnessing. And then going from watching those like on YouTube and stuff, I figured out about Twitch and then started watching PUBG streamers when that came out, and was watching like Doc and other people like that, Shroud, absolutely dominating that game. And then seeing them just, progress on Twitch, eventually go to other games and figuring out about Warzone that way.
So you're pretty much like a viewer. You knew Doc and you were watching streams and everything like that. What made you think, I want a taste of this, I want to start streaming and get into that kind of world?
I mean, it was really COVID that gave me the opportunity to start streaming. I mean, so I was in high school when COVID started. So in March 10th is when Warzone came out. COVID started basically that same day. I mean, people started figuring out about it that same day. So Warzone, like, realistically came out at like an unreal time. I mean, they could not have launched a game at a better time. The game came out as soon as people were being forced into their houses, and so I had a lot more free time. I still gamed. I in 4 years I logged about 1,000 hours in PUBG, and that was a lot of gaming for me. But to put that in perspective, in the last 4 years of Warzone, I've played like 11,000 hours. So I played like 10 times more than I used to play. So I used to play a lot for me, but now I play obviously a lot because I play full-time Warzone. But back then, starting out, it was really just COVID not allowing me to go and do other things, work and volunteer and stuff like that I was doing at the time. And being in school, my high school classes definitely got a lot slower. People weren't expecting to go online, so they got a lot easier. And I started playing Warzone. So Warzone came out. I was not never played any previous Call of Duties like that. It was just, I really thought of Call of Duty as a very toxic space. And so, coming from PUBG, I feel like people were generally more happy and very chill and that kind of thing. And my friend, he reached out and he's like, yo, we should play some Warzone. I was like, yeah, it's whatever. I mean, I'll try it with you. It's, we'll play it. And so we played some Warzone and I was really into it. We played for that full month until April. And around that time, I was making I took all my clips, I recorded all my clips, very low quality, and I made like little YouTube edits with them. And I still have those up today, and I love to go back and watch them. Like my first clips in the game, they're not even good, but back then they were cool, and so started playing a lot more. And then my buddy, the same buddy who was like, yo, you should play some Warzone, was like, you might as well just stream it, we could watch it, that kind of thing. And so I started streaming, and I streamed for 4 hours a day. It was Monday through Friday from 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern. I would stream, and just nice and consistent. And then I'd post a clip on Twitter of just, whatever happened that day. And I ended up doing that for 180 days to no one. Like, no one liking the tweets, no one watching the streams. It was just me and my friends. Like, if there was 3 viewers in my stream, it was me on my laptop, me on my phone, me on my iPad, and then maybe one of my friends, maybe. It really goes to show, like, I don't think that what I was doing was quality content at all. Like, I don't think that I deserve to be much more than what I was on then, but you really need to be consistent to understand what it takes to be a content creator, and especially doing it full time. If you're not on a consistent schedule or, putting content out, at least to just keep yourself in check, even if no one's interacting with it, it really keeps you in check and motivates you to continue doing what you're doing, regardless of if you're seeing numbers or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common sentiment. I mean, the feeling of streaming to no one, and like looking back on it now, that it wasn't like, like you said, it wasn't quality that you were expecting, hundreds of people to be there or whatever. It was more for like the fun of it, and I think that's pretty shared amongst a lot of people, especially around that time, who were streaming maybe to try and get a sense of community, or because there was not much else to do really, but. I did go back and I watched a few of the old clips and a few of the old videos, and it is like completely chalk and cheese to the Breadman experience now. I remember I went back and watched your first YouTube video, which was like a 2-minute highlight clip of like a 15 kill game, and it must have been like ripped straight from the stream, and it was like your reactions were like, you'd kill someone and you just go, huh. Super basic.
I wasn't a content creator. I was more or less just a person playing the game for sure.
Yeah, I think that's really cool to see though, because you've come such a long way since then, and obviously you've learnt a lot over that time. I did go back. I was going to ask you. I saw you had some streams from like 2018, but it was like, Minecraft and things like that. Did you dabble like just here and there randomly before you started on Warzone?
Yeah, so I knew what Twitch was, and I was more or less like, I thought back when in 2018 I was 16, and more or less I don't really have too many like memories from then just regarding streaming because I didn't do it that much, but it was probably just me playing a game being like, oh, I could go live right now and get rich, let me just click the go live button, and then doing it for an hour and be like, oh, nothing happened. And so it was more or less just knowing that it was a resource and trying it out and realizing, wow, it's not that easy. You actually have to put effort into it. And so in 2018 maybe 1 or 2 streams, maybe 2019 2 or 3, and then finally 2020 got some free time and actually start staying consistent. I mean, you have to be consistent when you're doing this kind of thing for sure.
Absolutely. Were you around like any other communities or any other big streamers around back in that time?
I was in a lot of PUBG streams. I was never really a chatter though. I'm one of those people that would just watch. Yeah, I would sub to who I could, especially with Prime. But I'd never really chat too much. It was more or less I'd leave it up on the side while I'm gaming and then game myself, and maybe I'll write a message or two, but I was never too deep in any Twitch communities before starting my streaming experience.
Okay, so I heard you talk about this the other day, how you got into wagers. Do you want to explain how you started competing for wagers against a pretty big name, one of the first ones you'll play?
Yeah. So my start is definitely different than a lot of people. So around the time that I was getting on this kind of streaming schedule, that Monday through Friday I was talking about, playing those 4 hours a day, I was realizing that, my stats, and I was comparing my stats to like Huskers and stuff. And I know stats aren't like a big way to gauge the skill of a player. Like if Joe has a 3 KD and I have a 7, that doesn't make me 2 times better than him, that kind of thing. But back then Warzone's brand new and there's not really many mouse and keyboard players, and so I was like, damn, I've got a 5 KD, and like I look over at Huskers and he's got a 5 too, and I'm like, maybe I can I see him playing these massive tournaments, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I don't think I could do that really because I didn't see myself as like a really competitive player, but I was like, maybe I'll just try a wager or two. And so I load up CMG, which is still a thing today, but it's definitely infested with cheaters. So I load up on CMG, which is kind of like a wager website. You put in money, you play each other in a 1v1 money match, and then whoever won gets both of the entries for both players. So I'd play these $1 matches. So we'd 1v1, each player puts up $1. If you win, you get the $2. And I would be so nervous. I'd be playing these 1v1s, and dude, I mean, I would be incredibly nervous. And I feel like people who were playing back then may have been nervous too. I mean, I see a lot of the names that are still around today, like Miyapo, Otter, a couple other people are some of the people that I played these 1v1s against back then. And everyone has definitely come a long way from then. But in terms of playing for money, no matter how much it was, 25 cents, $1, $2, $5, $100, I was just as nervous. And then, you fast forward to today, we'll probably get into it, but we're playing these big tourneys, and the people that started that long ago, none of us are nervous. We could play for 100K, a mil. You will never be nervous. And I think we'll probably talk about this for sure, but it makes it hard to get into the scene now because all these players that have played for the last 4 years, they're not getting nervous. Like we're not getting nervous when we're playing for that kind of money. And so starting out, playing these dollar matches, I was mad nervous. I was winning some, I was losing some, and then eventually somebody joined my chat. I probably had around 2 average or 10 average viewers at this time. A couple people that weren't friends and family were subbing at the time. I remember one dude came in and gave me $50 for a desk, and I went and told everyone. I was so excited. I mean, $50. Awesome. Yeah, it was insane. I had a donation goal to get a new desk, and I did. I got a new desk with that $50, and I just thought it was insane. His name was Alex Green 7. GOAT. Sometimes he comes in. I know he's not on Twitch too much anymore, but legend. I mean, he literally donated $50 to someone who no one knew who I was.
You remember his name now, so like that just shows how appreciative you are. That back then someone would go out of their way to give you a donation like that. That's
It was different. I mean, I'd stream for a month and make $0, and so like getting $50 from an hour stream was like, what is happening? And so a couple more people were watching at that time, definitely getting some viewers that were just kind of rogue looking through the viewer list, and maybe they stick, maybe they follow, that kind of thing. I probably had around 200 followers at the time, and a dude comes in my chat, and his name was Pun. He has a different name now, but well, he'll stay incognito. His name is Pun, and he offered me. He's like, "Yo, I've got a friend, and I'm basically in the community. You know, if you want to do wagers against some of these big guys, Tommy, Aiden, he named a few people. I was like, I'm down. I'm super down." And so what he did was sponsor a wager against Tommy and Aiden for me and one of my friends. And so it was a 2v2, and Pun put up $100 on each of our heads to play this wager. And so it was a $400 pot 2v2. And keep in mind, at this point, I'm nervous for $1 1v1s, you know?
Yeah.
And this was the time period was definitely different. People weren't as advanced. Tommy and Aiden were clearly leagues above anyone else playing, then leagues above myself and who I was playing with. But we somehow lucked ourselves into a win. I was sniping with the Kar 98. I remember one map. I went back and watched like Tommy's VOD, Aiden's VOD, because I mean they were just like superheroes compared to me, you know. And so I watched one of the maps where they were watching me snipe, and they're like, "Dang, dude, this guy's cooking." Like, we definitely lost this map. I just thought it was so cool. We lucked ourselves into a win, and Pun actually gave me the $100 that I would have won if I had put my own money up. So he profited nothing just getting to see us 2v2. Was so dope. So I won $100 putting up nothing. I could have lost, and I would have been down nothing. And I mean, he took a chance and paid me the profit, which is nuts. So Pun was a legend for that. And it also kind of got me into those wagers with some of the big guys, Tommy and Aiden. I ended up after that doing a lot of 1v1s against Aiden. And just because I'm a slower player, I ended up winning a lot of those because I was just way more reserved. Aiden was patient, yeah. He was just he was just doing whatever. Yeah, he's for him he was only playing for $50, but for me I was playing for like viewers. I was playing for the money. I was locked in. He was not locked in because it didn't matter as much to him at the time, you know. And that's really the start. I mean, it was Pun who came in and basically gave me those connections and the profit that I made from something I didn't even have to buy into, which was nuts. I mean, he gave me an unreal opportunity.
Yeah. How much do you think that changes now? Because obviously back then, new game, there's a few established big names, but you know, everyone is trying to make a name for themselves, and you're basically, you had an opportunity to network through that wager provided by somebody else. But how does that compare to now? Because it's pretty hard for a lot of people to break in the scene because, you know, there's a general distrust for some new people because of the whole, you know, how easy it is to get away with cheating and all that kind of thing. But
yeah.
How do you think that? Do you think that would be possible now if you were making a name for yourself right now?
Honestly, I really don't. Like, the issue would be like if you know someone that I know really well, maybe, you know, if they were to come in and be like, "Yo, I've got this guy. He's pretty cracked. I want you to play him. You know, play him for $100. You know, I'll put up his money, whatever." It's for me specifically. Maybe other people do it, but it's just like I could just go play Tommy or Aiden for $100 now, and it's like I know who they are. I know they're good. I'm not getting hacked on. I might as well have a fair fight. You know, I know who I'm playing. And I think having that back then, it wasn't, you know, there wasn't wager group chats. There wasn't, people didn't have these connections that they have now. It's like I could just go hit up whoever and find myself a 1v1 really quickly against someone. It was really good, of course, but I know they're not cheating. And so it's fair in that way, you know? And so if I'm just playing some random guy who I basically got everything to lose and nothing to gain from that. Yep. Because, you know, if I lose, either you know, whatever happened, I would much rather lose to someone I know than someone I don't, which kind of sucks for people trying to grow now. But it's just the way that the Warzone scene has progressed definitely does not favor new people coming into the scene and playing competitively at all.
Yeah, it is rough on the new people like that, but it's not because there's sort of like a wall up and you're trying to keep people out. It's more of, like you said, you're trying to protect your own your own interests. You've got more to lose than someone who's coming up in the scene like that.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I would much rather just play someone I know and know that, like, hey, this guy's really good, but I know for a fact, I mean, he's played on LAN, he's got all these accomplishments under his belt. I know he's not cheating. Let me just have a fair fight against him. And you know, if you lost, hey, I did something wrong. I'm not good enough today, you know, whatever it may be, but it's not like, was he hacking? You know, it's just so much, there's so much easier on your mind when you're just playing someone you've already played before a lot.
Okay. So in terms of, you know, you're making a name for yourself right now. You start to play in some major tournaments, like the first Twitch Rivals you played in. How did you get your name into getting that? And you've come up through playing wages and stuff, being nervous, but when did you start to feel a bit more comfortable when you started playing these big tournaments?
Yeah, so the Twitch Rivals tournament that you're referencing was the first customs tournament ever. There was never any customs, so no one had played a customs lobby. Every competition, every form of competition that happened in Verdansk to this point, which this was around December 2020, Warzone came out March, so the game's been out for 9 months now. Every single tournament has been either a 2v2 or a kill race. So that's all in public matches. No one has really ever played against the best, you know? And so custom lobbies come out in December 2020, and I have a team by then. So my duo at the time, his name was Prayers. He doesn't play anymore, but insane control player. He actually played on console at the time, which a lot of people did because, you know, everyone was coming from Blackout or wherever they came from already on console. You know, Call of Duty was on console. And so they were coming from console. No, he's legit. I'm like, yo, let's do some 2v2s together. We're playing 2v2s, and I run into Nobu Spartan, who still plays today. He placed 4th in the tournament earlier today. And I just thought it was so funny. He's from Quebec. He's got the funniest accent. He's a really funny guy, and he's really good as well. And so us three ended up forming a trio for this upcoming Twitch Rivals quals. And so none of the big players had to go through the quals. People got invited to the tournament. So, you know, Husk, Joe, Aiden, Tommy, people like that got an invite straight there just because they were already vetted. They don't need to qual for that kind of thing because they've won all their tournaments, stuff like that. So, you know, even having the opportunity in my position, by this point, I had been rated by Aiden and Joe, which Joe doesn't even remember rating me. So this was October 2020. Aiden rated me, and then 2 weeks later, Joe rated me. And those were some of the highest viewer counts that even to this day that I've been on, because Verdansk numbers were incredibly inflated compared to what they were today. I mean, Aiden rated me with 9,000 people.
That's insane.
Which, you know, insane.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
Dude, I remember getting rated, and then right after that, I hit a crazy clip, but I was so nervous. Like, beyond, I didn't know how to talk to chat. And again, like going back, if you're trying to get started right now, and even getting started streaming, like maybe you've come from a different game and you're not new to streaming. If you are new to streaming, staying consistent and not growing, but just, you know, working on your sharpening your skills with talking, stuff like that really helps to when you get an opportunity. Because when someone raids, you want to maximize the people that you're grabbing. You know, you essentially want to take as much from that as you can, which it seems kind of predatory, or, you know, whatever the word may be. But like, I mean, that's how Twitch works. I mean, you really have to work your way up the ladder. And so when you want to be ready for opportunities like that, and I definitely was not ready for that 9,000 viewer raid. I think when I got rated by the 9,000 people, I think I got 100 followers from that, which for me at the time was a lot. But if you think of the conversion, I definitely could have been better with the conversion. But I mean, as soon as he rated me, I went from having 5 to 10 viewers to 20 average no matter what. I could get on it any time of the day, I'd be on 20 average, which is a really big stepping stone. You know, I'm getting sidetracked here, but one time I was playing duos and my buddy killed Tim, and I remember, now they weren't good viewers, you know, there was people trying to talk trash, but they came and I got 20 viewers from that encounter, saying like, oh, stream sniper, stuff like that. But I was on my highest viewer count ever at 23, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. Even though they're talking shit, we weren't stream sniping, but like, you know, obviously viewers will do that kind of thing.
They see the name, they click on it. It happens now
just
too.
It's TTV. Yeah, if anyone TTV kills you, there's even some streamers that like they cannot accept the fact that they died to just a random person. Like, not everyone has to be stream sniping, and I was definitely in that position where you know, if I killed a big streamer or something, I was stream sniping because I had TTV in my name because I just thought it was a good way to grow. And
it's like, definitely, just advertising.
Yeah. It led to more negatives than positives. I don't think I grew because I had TTV in my name. So, you know, you definitely don't need TTV in your name, but. Yeah, so going back to that Twitch Rivals, December 2020, by this point, I was a little bit more established. I had around 20 average viewers, and I go in, you know, we're playing this qualifiers with Nobu, Spartan, and Prayers, and we ended up winning the first map. So there was 6 maps that day. We won the first map, and from then on out, that whole tournament, we were in first place, and we ended the tournament in first place as well. Which was massive. I mean, winning the first customs ever, we had practiced for weeks. We would go into public lobbies, look at the zone pools. We were kind of playing them really ratty. We were playing it like we were playing a customs. Even though the players in the lobbies weren't good, we were still trying to lock in, and playing like that really put us leagues above when the actual customs happened, because everyone was running around like it was a TKR. No one was used to playing against each other. And so we won that, went to the main event, and I believe we placed 6th place, which got us $3,000 each in that January. So we got 6th place that tourney, took home $3K each. When I told my mom that, she couldn't believe it. I mean, that was the first time I'd ever taken home any amount of money from streaming or competing, and it was insane. I could not believe it.
So there's a few things there. First of all, how did the conversation go with like your parents and family, friends, or whatever, when you're like, this is my thing now, I'm trying to get into streaming? Or at this stage, was it still a hobby for you?
Yeah, I mean, even at this stage, I wasn't streaming full time. Now, sometimes I may pull out an 8-hour stream out the hat, but like normally I was keeping my 4-hour streams consistent, scheduled. My mom knew that I lived with my mom at the time, and she knew like, hey, I'm going to be streaming from 12 to 4, but it was more or less just like a fun thing. I'm like, hey, potentially I see all these people making X amount of money, that kind of thing. Potentially this could turn into a job, but it wasn't like I was, wholeheartedly dependent on streaming becoming a career. It was more or less just something to do to get me to my first college semester, which would have been that 2021 or no, late 2020. Yeah. So late 2020, I was actually, now that I think about it, I was in college during that tournament, because 2020 fall semester, I was in online classes. This goes back a little bit, but if COVID wouldn't have started, my mom was not going to let me take my PC to college because she thought it'd get stolen, because at the time I did have a PC. And yes, okay. I would not have been able to stream. So COVID doesn't happen, I definitely do not stream. There's no way.
That's a funny chain of events. Wow, that's insane.
I know, yeah. So so I got my timelines mixed up a little. I wasn't in college at this time. But yeah, I just did that 12 to 4, went to my classes, and she kind of thought of it as like, hey, it's something fun that I'm doing. At least, I'm playing these games anyway. I might as well be streaming, but she never thought that I'd make any amount of money from it. There's no way.
I remember the first couple of customs tournaments. I remember that as a viewer as well. Just watching, I was like really more just intrigued. Like, all the big names are in here. There's Iron, there's Doc, there's Tim, there's just FaZe members, there's Swag, there's everyone. And I was watching like Iceman, Exact, Joe. I had like 15 tabs open. I was just going through and like, oh my God, this person's lying down on the other side of a wall to this person and they're about to fight. But it was so different to what it is now, where people have more strats and they're more locked in and there's more teamwork and they kind of know the pattern of how to play a custom. But back then, like you said, coming from mainly timed kill races and 2v2s, people were like running around lost, and like some people were playing slow, some people were just running around. It was really fascinating more than anything, especially as a viewer, just to see how, people would play against each other, because it had never been done before.
Yeah, I love, like, some days when I'm not, like, even today, there was a tournament that I wasn't in, and I love just like watching someone and being like, oh my gosh, there's someone that they're about to run into. And that's the same thing that the viewer gets out of it to this day. Regardless of how big or small the tournament is, it's so fun to watch the best play against the best, because you actually see like, people making good plays, and you see their thought process, and you see, really good players that people love may get shit on, or, may do the shitting on. It's just, it's fun to watch the highest level of player compete against each other, because you really get to see who is consistently good. And it gives, if you can get into these customs as well, you can make a name for yourself. I mean, you obviously did, because the next couple of tournaments you got picked up by Iceman back in that day, and at the time Iceman, I think, was really taken off with his Warzone Academy and all that kind of thing, and he was really making a name for himself through YouTube. Brought a lot of viewers to Twitch, including myself. And how did you go about linking up with Iceman for the first time back then? Yeah, so after that customs tournament, it was December 2020. Customs tournament ends. It's January now. And Iron was a massive streamer at the time. I mean, he was pulling 5K average viewers easily. And his thing was a little different. He wasn't like running around dropping 60 bombs. He was just chill. He was playing for the wins. He'd get 40 wins in 24 hours. He'd get 40 wins in a row. Like, he was nice and chill, and it really was a fun play style. And so Iron, after that tournament, reaches out to me and he's like, "Yo, do you want to play some?" Because he watched us play, and he was like, they play pretty reserved or whatever. And he's like, "Yo, do you want to play?" And I was like, "Dude, I would love to." And so after that point, that really took me, that winning that Twitch Rivals tournament, and also Iron reaching out to me, took me from that 20 viewer to 50 viewer, leap. And that was a massive leap, because then I've got people coming in, I've got new viewers every day, followers that aren't from other people, maybe they've just stumbled upon me and made it there themselves, which are massive, because, those are people that they may watch you when Iron's on. And I remember, I'm playing with Iron, and dude, he did so much for me. Like, he did not have to reach out to me at all to play, because I was no one, like, he just reached out. And we were doing these win streams. I would get on at any time of the day to play with him. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 7 p.m., doesn't matter, I'll get on. We'll do a 24-hour stream. It was so fun. And I remember there was times where, like, if he already had a group, I didn't want to stream, because I was like, dang, if I get on, everyone's going to be watching. I was kind of like the secondary. So I was like, sometimes I would avoid him. So, like, because if I went live, there would be no one watching. And it's like a give and a take, because he gave me the viewers anyway. Like, those were his, and he really did so much for me. But one of the big things that I learned is that if you are competing for viewers with someone, the best thing to do is to just stream when they're streaming. Like, because over time, you're going to get people every single day. You'll get more and more people who are not watching that other person. And that's what I eventually learned. You just got to stream when they're streaming. But again, it goes back. I can't give Iron enough credit. Like, he did an incredible amount for starting my streaming career out. But so at this point, I'm from that 50 viewer to almost 100 viewer, when Iron was off, kind of range. And so people knew about me, a little bit more people knew about me, but didn't really know anything really. And I knew that Iceman Isaac was looking for a duo for 2v2s, TKRs, whatever. Because I don't know who we played with before that, but he was looking for a duo. And chat actually recommended me. They're like, "Yo, you should play with this Bread guy." And then Isaac, me streaming, came and was like, "Yo, do you want to play?" And I was like, "Dude, I would love to play." And I was like, "Dude, this is Isaac, So I'd love to play." And that opportunity, Isaac coming to ask, only came because Iron asked me to play the previous month. And so I get the opportunity to play with Isaac because of the eyes that I got from Iron. And it was so fun. I remember the first game that we played, Isaac had like 26 kills with 70 up. And that was a lot. And then I sold it. That was like a Verdansk type. And I sold at a buy station that like lost a 1v1 and died. And I was like, "Oh, dude, I whiffed his PR." And it's very similar to like the first time Joe and I played with us playing really bad. And I thought he was going to drop me. Like, I was like, "Oh, Isaac's never going to pick me up." But we started playing 2v2s, started playing tourneys. And it was amazing. I mean, like, I'd never competed in any of these tourneys. We started playing all the big tourneys. We may not have won anything really big, but we did consistently get paid from these tourneys, and it was definitely a source of income. It was definitely a massive opportunity, and it was just fun to compete. And eventually, I think the most money that we took home from a tournament, there was a really big tourney. I think it was Nade Shots. I don't know if you remember that tourney, but Nade Shot hosted a 100K, and it was a 2v2, and Isaac and I are in winners quarters against Swag and Booyah. And the rules did not have anything on sabotage. And since this was a little bit earlier on, sabotage is really big now, where you'll shoot someone's vehicle when they get out so they can't drive it, or you'll shoot down someone's balloon. Sabotage wasn't really like that. And so we were all landing hospital. Swag beats Booyah to the helicopter, and then Isaac realized that Booyah got into the plane with him, and so Isaac threw Booyah into a building, killing him. And then Swag was like, what just happened? And he left the game. He was like, "We're just resetting." But sabotage was not banned, and so technically that was a map forfeit. It was 1-1. Technically, that would have forfeited, and that would have put us into finals, winners finals. And Nade Shot had to make a hard call. He was like, because all of the Swag fans would have been really upset, and Swag was pulling. I mean, he may have had 20K viewers during this tournament. He was pulling massive viewers. Nade Shot made the decision to replay the map, even though technically Swag did forfeit it, which, it's tough to make a decision regardless. If you make the decision to not replay it, you're gonna have so many people mad at you. You're gonna have there's people mad at you regardless.
Yeah.
Nate Shot made the decision to replay it. We replay it and we lost. And so we go to losers and we lose losers. And I think we made 2K for that tourney. But after the tourney, Nate Shot DM'd us. He also followed me from that. So that's a win, bro. I'll take that. And that's a Nate Shot follow back then was insane.
100%.
Yeah, and so he followed, and he's like, yo, dude, I feel so bad, you and Isaac. I'm going to give you both a 1/10 of a Bitcoin. And at the time, that was worth like 6K. I still have it to this day.
Really?
I can check
Okay.
what it's worth now.
Yeah.
I've not sold it. I still have that 1/10 of a Bitcoin he gave me. And it's worth 4.6K now. So I've lost 1.4K. But that was technically the most money that Isaac and I won together in a tourney. I mean, we won the 2K, and we got the 1/10 of a Bitcoin, which was like, basically, we got paid the same amount that Swag and them would have
Yeah, you basically won.
They ended up winning. Yeah. And so I was like, dude, screw it. I'll take a follow in the 1/10 of a Bitcoin. But that was like one of those big 2v2 scandals. That was the most we made together, and it was a lot of money. And, from competing with Isaac, we competed for at least a year together. He was the whole time full-time Air Force. And even up until recently, he was still full-time Air Force while making content, while streaming, having a baby. I mean, dude juggles it all. And towards the end of us playing, he just had more and more responsibilities to do and wasn't able to catch some of the tournaments. And so I ended up playing with people that he was friends with. I was played with Exact. I would play with Joe. And then, Joe didn't really have a duo at the time. And so after Isaac had a lot of responsibilities with the Air Force, I reached out to Joe and was like, yo, do you want to play one of these tourneys? And we got like last place, but that kind of started our duo basically.
Yeah, so you basically took the words out of my mouth. So I was going to talk about how you went through, you played a few tournaments with Iceman and Exact, and that's how I found you. I found you actually through, it was like a 4v4, but you played it as a 2v2 format. So it was you and Bralik with Isaac and Exact in the same team playing against.
Did you watch the finals?
Yes. Where we talked about it with B the other day as well, where he had a chance.
Yeah.
He was clutching up. He clutched up at the end, but it just fell short of the total amount of kills that they needed. So it would have been, dude, that was unlucky too. But that's how I found you. And I remember around that time, Zach, as I was always in his stream, always gassed you up. Always was talking about how you had the smoothest movement for mouse and keyboard, looked like a controller player. He was a big fan of you and your personality and how you handled yourself. And he was always gassing up about how he wanted to play more with you. But you started competing. I mean, you played with them in Teeps Trials with Doug is Raw, another big name, with Iron and Yeet. You guys played some tournaments together, and you were always around the podium finishes. You were always there. So was it giving you a taste? Did you were like, dude, I really want to win something? Or were you more like, I'm happy to be here kind of thing?
Yeah, I always have been there was definitely like a game-changing moment where my ideology went from like, I'm just playing for money, like I could go in this tourney and win it or lose, it doesn't matter, like I'm just playing. I really appreciate the opportunity. But playing these tournaments, getting even close to the best of the best, I did not see myself as the most competitive person ever, and if I lost, whatever, I'll go keep streaming, or if we win, we got money from it. But it was a great way to get that competitive taste. And eventually, you play so much money, or you play so many tourneys, you win a little bit of money, you realize that you can actually maybe win. And I was like, I started seeing myself as someone who wasn't just playing because I got an invite and playing because potentially we could place in the money, And so we're playing these tourneys, getting paid a little bit. And then come February, I believe it was February 10th, 2022, I won the Solo YOLO tournament that Optic hosted, which was for 15K. And that's when I'm getting goosebumps right now because thinking back, I never thought I would have won. I was just playing it because it was available, but I'm like, I may do good. I may get top 5, top 10, but I can't win 15K. Like that's not me. Like I don't see that written for myself, And I ended up winning that one singular solo game. I got 15K, and I was like, dude, I still can't believe I won that because I just didn't really see myself as a candidate of winning big sums of money. I just didn't think I had the skill or whatever. And then after that tourney, I really was like, okay, maybe I can actually win with Joe, with whoever I was playing with, maybe we can actually lock it in and start winning. And I think ever since that February, we've really stepped up our game and become, especially in customs, like a team that can compete for top 3 minimum.
Yeah, around about that time, like you were talking about, that February 2022, you and Joe started linking up for 2v2s and other tournaments and customs and things like that. And you guys went on an insane run. You won like 5 or 6 tournaments, placed second in another like 5 or 6, and just you really consolidated your name as a duo and yourself. You would like streams are taking off, content's doing well on your YouTube, and around about that time was like everything seemed to be like really working for you. Did you feel like you were part of that top tier yet, or did you feel like you were still making a name for yourself?
I definitely, I mean, even up until that point, I definitely still thought that I was just making a name for myself. I mean, before that, it was me, Joe, and FIFA. I really didn't see us as like the best team ever. I knew that we had the potential to make money in these tournaments, but if we won, it was more like we played really good today, and maybe the opponents like didn't play as good, or whatever happened. I just didn't hold myself to that standard yet, and I definitely think going back, I could have held myself to that standard, but I think it was more like I just didn't see myself good enough to win against some of these people like TBE or Biffle or whoever. I was like, they're just beyond, their leagues above, And until we played with FIFA, once we started playing with FIFA and Caldera, me, Joe, and FIFA, I was like, okay, maybe we can actually win every tourney. Like we were consistently winning trios customs, whatever else was being hosted. And I was like, okay, maybe we can actually be a top team. And I think that first team with FIFA really kind of showed us in customs we can dominate for sure.
Yeah, like I said, you were really making a name for yourself. The streams were popping, and around about that time was Caldera, like was just saying, and a few of it seemed like there was a lot of mixed feelings for the game itself. I mean, we lost a few of the big creators to maybe other games or things like that. So like, I felt like in Verdansk, Warzone 1 had like Tim and Swag and Doc all the time in the tournaments and stuff, where it was more like all the creators were invited, but whereas now it became more about the competitors and things like that. Do you feel like, looking back now, that Warzone was kind of the main stage in Warzone 1 and it sort of lost it as it became a different map in from Verdansk to Caldera?
Yeah, 100%. I think, I mean, looking back, people are like, yeah, I really want Verdansk back or that kind of thing. But I mean, I think people forget that people complained about Verdansk and the hacker situations and the state of the game so much. I mean, people were just generally unhappy with late Verdansk. I mean, it was just, there was always something. People can complain about the best of the best, and then you realize what you had later, And so when Caldera came out, people on console couldn't even play. There was so many issues. Foliage was an issue. Peaks in the middle of the map, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of issues with the game, and it really showed that, like, dang, Warzone may be in one of its worst time periods ever with the new game coming out. You thought the new map coming out would have done so much for the game, give you that new chance, but really it just showed who's willing to stick with Warzone and who's not. And I definitely think with, in terms of the big creators and stuff playing these tourneys, it was more or less like they didn't care enough anymore to play these big tourneys. It was just really competitors left playing those tournaments, and I think that's a good and a bad thing. The tournaments are more competitive for sure, but at the same time, you lose out on viewership and stuff like that. And so after having Verdansk numbers, you realize in Caldera, like, we may never get that back. That kind of viewership, you'd see Swag on 20K, whoever, Aiden on 15K, Iron
Max as well.
Yeah. I mean, these were just insane numbers that just the time period really allowed. I mean, COVID, everyone's indoors, people are watching, people are playing. I don't think we're ever going to get that back, just because the time period. The game could be as good as it was there then, and we still wouldn't have that many people playing and watching. So definitely Caldera was an eye opener. It was like, wow, okay. Let's just lock it in. I really enjoyed the map. I've enjoyed all 4 maps that have come out. But, overall, like, the sentiment wasn't there. And so definitely, being like a streamer, hearing people's thoughts, in chat and on Twitter and stuff like that, talking about their opinions on the map, it was definitely like, dang, I'm just going to be positive about it. When I go live, I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to be positive, because all I see anywhere is complaining. And so I think from then on, I try not to complain about anything because that's all I hear everywhere else. And so it was definitely a good thing that Joe, Fief, and I enjoyed Caldera, and I think it made us do better in those tournaments because we enjoyed the game, in its current state, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even going back to when you're talking about getting rated by thousands of people and making sure that you're at your best self, because it was something that came up I think with Exact was like, every time you're live, every minute basically is a first impression for someone. Someone comes in, they'll see you for the first time. They'll see whatever video you post, that's their first time. That's a first impression. And so, especially when a raid comes in, you got to be, if you're toxic and maybe negative and complaining and stuff, for the most part, most people will probably switch off or just like, oh, okay, well, moving on now.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
So, it's good sometimes, obviously not to be fake, but to try and, twist your mindset to try and be a bit more positive when it comes to things like that, because you never know who's going to be there and maybe find you for the first time and either love or hate you for the first time.
Yeah, you definitely, like you said, you shouldn't force anything. Like if overall, you're a person that is negative a lot, then, trying to stay positive all the time, probably it won't last you that long. Eventually you're going to slip. But, having that idea that anyone could be watching at any time, you see your viewer count, however many people are watching, that could be anyone. It literally could be anyone. So, just trying to stay in a state of mind, or, whatever you're talking about, where it's just something that I would want to watch myself. If
Exactly,
I don't like to watch people complain. I don't like to see raging. It's just, it makes me cringe a little, like not in like because just to use the word, like I get goosebumps and stuff. I just don't like to watch it. I don't know. But yeah, I try to be the person that I would want to watch myself. And one of the biggest streamers that I've watched and that's just so chill and has been a great inspiration for me is Choco Taco. I don't know if you've heard of him. He came from PUBG. He was a leaderboard grinder. Used to have an insane amount of viewers. Now he does a lot more variety, but still the same person. Like, you could tell that he has not changed from then, even with different viewership or people, whatever's happening. He's just very chill and positive, and it's been a big inspiration for me because it shows that you can just be chill and positive and exist in COD, because there's not a lot of people that are doing that, for sure.
Yeah, and you have that personality that if you change games, it doesn't matter. Like, some people will fall off, obviously, but most of the community that you've built will stay with you because they enjoy you and not whatever it is that you're playing. So I want to go back for a second and talk about something that happened in, it was the customs tournament, back in Verdansk, so we're going back a little bit, against Doc, and I just had to bring this one up, where you had basically a 1v1 against him and did a no-scope 360 off a building just to try and torment him. And then I saw you post it on Twitter, you posted it on all the socials and things like that.
Yeah.
How was that like? Because obviously you said earlier that Doc was somebody that you saw playing games before you were starting streaming. So when you were coming up against like someone like Doc and getting these insane clips, how did that, were you getting a buzz from that? Was it like a surreal feeling? Because that's all I can imagine. Like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, it's like coming from a viewer, and even now, like those guys are leagues above. Like they are, they are still. I do not consider myself anywhere close to the same anything is Tim, Doc, people like that. Still look up to them in terms of the same way that I did before I started streaming. So I can definitely relate to people who aren't creating content or maybe seeing as a viewer, even though I may be different than you. We look at them the same way. That's how big they are and how much of an impact they have on people. But yeah, in that tournament, Joe and I were dead lost. Like, people don't remember that. That was one of our first duos customs. We do notoriously bad in duos customs. Now we do good. Like in Al Mazrah, we got second place in the last big one. Like, it was just more or less like chemistry back then, because Joe has learned a lot from playing with me. Not like in terms of skill, like not because he's getting better, but because I'm a mouse and keyboard player. I can't trade him out for shit. Like, if he goes into a building, he knows that he needs to kill someone, because we have completely different play styles, and that's what makes us so good together, especially in trios. he can find someone, we could get FIFA or we can get Skull. They could play really close knit together, and I can kind of just watch them overhead, and they know I've got their cover, but from a little bit further than they may be used to. And that's what we used to struggle with. He's really, really good at up close range, movement, that kind of things. I just don't have it like that. Against some of the best, that's what we needed to learn. And so in that duos tournament, we were dead lost. We were finding someone, and Joe had just died as Z-laner, and I knew Z-laner's teammate was Doc, and to Z-laner's right seemed like a solo, but I was like, it could be Doc, and we're dead lost anyway. Joe spectating me, I was like, I might as well just go for a 360 off the top of this, and it ended up being Doc, and I was like, dude, I cannot believe, I was like, I can't believe that happened. There's no way. It was such a good clip, and I'll definitely always look back on that and love that time period for sure.
Okay, one thing I have to ask is there was a wild edit of that one that I think it was on Instagram or something. was that your idea, or was that like an editor's idea?
Yeah, that was I saw there's like a template on TikTok that I saw, and it was like a girl squatting in the woods with like a green screen like in her pants, so like she pulls her pants down and there's this green screen. So I was like, dude, what if I put that Doc clip in the green screen? And so I resurfaced the clip like 2 years later, and people loved it. They loved it. It was such a funny clip.
Insane. I saw that and I was like, yep, that's enough internet for me today.
Yeah. I showed that one to my mom, and she's like, what kind of content do you make?
Oh, you voluntarily showed your mom that?
Yeah. No, she loves that kind of stuff. I mean, she's hip. She's hip.
Okay, all right.
That's
hip. All right then. All right, so taking it back to the YouTube side of things, because you've been, I think, pretty consistent with posting videos, and it doesn't look like you mind too much what sort of videos they are, because you've put out gameplays, highlights, and all that stuff. But the first couple of ones that really took off for you were like tips and tricks and things like that. And did you was that something that you focused on? You're like, I really need to grow my YouTube and I'm going to try this, or it just happened and you're like, I'm going to keep doing more tips and tricks because they seem to work?
Yeah, so really early on in YouTube, I probably at the time had like 100 average viewers when I started, 100 average viewers on Twitch when I started YouTube. And I knew it was something that people did, and I knew it was a way to get people content that may not be able to watch the live or that kind of stuff, and even just grow your Twitch. You could do things on other platforms that could in turn grow you on Twitch or whatever your main platform is. And so I was like, maybe I should start a YouTube and just do whatever. And back then, it was Verdansk, and those numbers were amazing. And I thought when I first started that YouTube's just easy. Like I'm on a brand new channel, 100 subs, whatever. I'm getting 10K, 20K, 30K views, 60K views. I'm like, dude, YouTube's easy. I'm making these tip videos, and I love teaching. I don't think of myself as a good speaker. I think that I use a lot of words to say little, like small ideas, but I do enjoy speaking. And I was making these tips and tricks, and I would just kind of go live, no editing, just talk about it. And people back then really did enjoy that. And now I do it, it's a bit more refined, but I kind of want to get back to that, just kind of going, turning on the camera, getting the gameplay, and just talking, because I really like that. But back then, those videos were blowing up, and I genuinely thought that YouTube was easy. And so I was like, I'm going to take a break. I wasn't monetizing the videos at that point. I don't know why. I just thought that maybe it'd lead to me getting less views. So I was like, I'm just not going to monetize it. I think if I were to go back and post them while monetized, I would have made money, and then I would have been like, dang, maybe I should stay consistent with this, and maybe my YouTube channel would be way bigger than it is today. But that was definitely one of my biggest mistakes with YouTube, is I took like a 6-month break from posting and then come back and realize, wow, I was in a good part in the algorithm. I was doing something right that I'm not doing now, and definitely have learned that YouTube's not easy. And I should have been putting more effort to that. And that's another big thing when you're streaming. Say you do 12 hours a day of streaming, cut off that extra 4-6 hours and then go make some content for another platform, because it really does help you across the board, whatever you're doing. It was just a massive mistake for me to take that 6-month break, but it did teach me a lesson that you really just need to stay consistent no matter what platform. No platform is easy in that way.
And so in terms of being in front of a camera, I know some people will tell you that streaming in front of a camera and talking to a camera for recording a video is completely different things. Did those things feel like they were natural to you? Like, are you comfortable just sitting and talking in front of a camera? Like, how is that your personality?
Yeah, I am comfortable in front of a camera. Back then, definitely not. My intros were awful. I couldn't look at the camera. I would say the same thing. I could script the intro and it'd still come out bad. Like it was crazy. But doing it over and over and looking at a camera, talking to it, it gets way more secondhand. I will say, even to this day, I'm not good at talking to a camera with people around me. I would much rather do it with just me. If I know that someone's in the house, or someone can hear me, or I'm in public vlogging, I do get a little like, oh, this is whatever. But I am definitely to the point now where I wasn't before. I don't think that I started with this this level of talking. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But I still don't think I've unlocked that next level where I can walk around in public with a camera without feeling, oh, what am I doing kind of thing.
What about the live intros, or when you're streaming and you're recording an intro live? Is that something that comes into your mind, like people are there, or does it feel like no one's?
Nah, like it's different. I feel like if I had one person in my house, or if I have one person behind the camera looking at when I'm doing the intro, I'm gonna mess up. But I could be live to 50,000 people and do a one take intro, easy peasy. It just doesn't. It's different, like you don't really conceptualize or really think about how many people are actually watching. I could. Yeah, I could. There could be 3 people behind the camera and 50,000 people, and I would just be so nervous. I don't know.
It's weird how it works like that.
Yeah.
So the end of Warzone 1, we're moving towards the Warzone 2 times of Uzbekistan?
Mm-hmm.
Al-Mazrah?
Yeah, Al-Mazrah. Yeah.
Al-Mazrah, sorry. I got lost for a second there. We were pretty much, at one point I saw you on, you shout out the Hot Drop podcast where you said Warzone was in the best place it's ever been towards the end of Caldera. And then we move into Warzone 2, and like a lot of sentiment across the community drops. A lot of people fall out of love with the game, fall off the game. How was that year for you? Because towards the end of 2022, you joined Luminosity with Huskers, Noobs, P90 Princess, and Kens. How was that opportunity for you? And did it feel like it helped you grow at that time when Warzone was struggling?
Yeah, being part of Luminosity was massive. Especially, they took a really big chance on us because they signed us before Warzone 2 came out, and people thought that Warzone 2 was going to be like the return it back to Verdansk type viewership and stuff like that, but it ended up being reverse. I mean, we saw the lowest amount of people playing the game, the lowest amount of people consuming YouTube content, Twitch content, any type of content ever during like that March, April, May of Warzone 2. But being a part of Luminosity really, it gave me the idea that, hey, I can do this for the long run. We could see record lows and I'm still feeling like I'm doing something. It was definitely feeling like you're part of a team. It was nice to have financial backing as well, and being able to like go to an event and whatever it may be. It was definitely being in Luminosity in the time period that Warzone was great for the mental, because it was like, maybe I'm doing something right, even though it doesn't seem like people are watching it, because the game, people just didn't like the game. It wasn't on me or other creators that people didn't enjoy the game. It was just Warzone 2, and I think that they really crawled out of that hole by the end of Warzone 2. Like, the game definitely got better, and I really enjoy Al-Mazrah as a map. I really enjoy that time period when Warzone ended, but I'm happy where we are today for sure. I mean, Uzbekistan and the new map, new mechanics, that kind of stuff, they've definitely realized that they did something wrong in Warzone 2 for sure.
So I know a lot of people enjoyed the map, they just didn't enjoy the mechanics of the game. And I don't want to go too much in depth about Warzone as a game itself, but what side of the fence were you on? Did you enjoy everything about the game? Or was it just the map?
Yeah, generally, I have loved Warzone across the board. Like, they could release the worst update ever, and non-biased, like, not even as a content creator, if I were not live or not recording or whatever, I would still enjoy the game and play it, because I just like the game. I'm a big Battle Royale fan. I feel like they're doing something good, but obviously Warzone 2 was worse than Warzone 1. However, I enjoyed Warzone 2 just because, it was the same game, kind of the same game I was playing the year before, just worse. And I enjoyed the game before so much that I did still enjoy it, even though I did not prefer it just because I knew my peers didn't like it. I much prefer right now where we are in Urzikstan, I feel like the overall sentiment is good, and it's fun to play a game that other people like because you could go talk to them and, they're like, oh, I did this today, I did this, instead of you go talk to them and say, oh, I haven't played in 2 months, it's whatever. And so it's definitely fun to play a game that other people enjoy and are playing themselves for sure.
I mean, I could almost tie that back to when you were playing as a kid growing up, and you're playing against people, and you got to learn to lose essentially, and be able to regain. But it seems like a lot of people were holding on that year for the big LAN tournament. I mean, the first in-person LAN event, going to a different country. Tell us about that experience. I mean, how was that for you, rubbing shoulders with people? I know you met some people beforehand, but really having everyone under one roof at the same time.
Yeah, that LAN, I mean, even thinking about it now, I'm so happy that I did a vlog for that because I could go back and watch that and kind of relive those memories because it was such a fast trip. We went to London. We had 4 days there, and I'm no joke, all 4 days were scheduled. There was not there may have been 4 hours free in that whole trip to go do stuff. And so it was constantly, doing stuff, meeting people, which was so cool, eating great food, eating really bad food because the food in London's
the food in
not
London.
that good. Yeah, and but yeah, in terms of the event, I mean, walking into the arena and realizing that there's seating for 2,000 people was like game changing. I mean, there was a live audience of like 2,000, 3,000 people, and it felt surreal. Like sitting there, competing against the best and the best. We ended up coming 6th place in that event, which was definitely not that bad. I know that we could have played better. I had us coming in the top 3, but overall, I think that we played a good day of Warzone. And then in the solo YOLO, I came 2nd place for no money. So the solo YOLO is basically like if you win these solo games, similar to that one that I won back in February 2022. I won 15K in that one. Same thing for this one, but it's for 100K. And so if you win, you get 100K. And I lost. I got 2nd place to Skullface, who is our trio now. Skullface, Joe, and I are the trio now. I've actually lost $140,000 to Skullface in 3 games, which that's great to think about. But
now the pressure's on him to earn it back with you guys now, winning tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, I may have given the gift to Skullface 140K, but even coming 2nd place at the main event, I at no point felt anything. I never thought about it. I never was like, oh, dude, like, it sucked obviously to lose, but being in the opportunity to win that much money in a singular game with how random, the zone pool can be, whatever the opportunity is, especially playing these solo events, I've never beat myself up. If you win, you win. If you don't, you don't. And so coming 2nd place was definitely the highlight of that trip, because as soon as the game was over, the crowd was chanting, they were like, oh, Brad, come here, dude, I'm so sorry you lost, people taking pictures. It really made you realize that there's people behind the screen watching. I mean, you could have 2,000 viewers every day, but if I'm spending 7 days of the week in my house, I'm not going anywhere. You really don't ever see people or talk to people or, that kind of thing. And so it's when you go to an event like that, you travel to a different country, the event, amazing. They couldn't have put it together better. And then you see the crowd, it was game changing. And I really am looking forward to the World Series this year, hoping that it's, up to par with how it was last. Because just feeling that sense of maybe I am, a good competitor, or maybe I am a good content creator. Like meeting people was just beyond cool.
So I know you had nerves early on, and eventually they sort of went away. But was this different at all because it was in person compared to competing customs and in private lobbies at your own setup, being somewhere with everyone, with a crowd? Did you have any nerves at all, or were you fine?
I was fine. I mean, so it was 3 days that we had access to those computers. The first day they had us play 2 practice lobbies. Everyone in the event played, and we did really well in those 2 practice lobbies. We were running through teams. None of us were nervous. I think so that was like a good way to keep our nerves down. Like, hey, we're trying, different setups, different whatever chair, whatever you're used to. It's just so different. You may be on the same mouse and headset or whatever, but like, the space, the desk height, there's so many factors, especially with mouse and keyboard, that can change the way that you play and make you feel uncomfortable. But I really did feel very comfortable with the setup because we had so long to play and so many days. They even let us like stream a day of ranked, like it was just, they gave us ample amount of time to get used to the setup, so it's really helped for the nerves, because the only thing I was nervous about was not being used to the setup, but we had ample time to get used to it. And so I think come tourney day, even with the crowd, still same old 6 games, you got to play good in all of them. And so I don't think the nerves got to me that much. But I was definitely nervous in the solo YOLO, because once I got top 5, it was like, holy shit, I could win 100K. And so my head kind of felt hot, that kind of thing. It felt, I was definitely nervous. I could feel my heart beating for sure. But during the trios customs, I think it's nice, standard. We had good comms, good vibes. Not nervous there.
I think when you've got 100K on the line and it's all on you, I think you're allowed to get a little bit nervous towards the end. I think that's all right. Definitely,
like up into that point, because I never going into those games thinking I'm going to win, because you don't want to be really upset. Because the thing I tell people in solos is they are very RNG. You could do anything that you want to get to that top 25, but after that point, you really got to hope that you're in the right place at the right time, because anything can happen. And so if you go in thinking you're going to win every time, you're going to be upset every single time, because consistently it's hard to win unless you're Skullface. I mean, that guy's different.
I heard you talk about it as well with the first solo that you won, that it was pretty much down to Isaac's choice, where he chose to fight somebody else rather than you, because if he fought you first, you would have lost because you would have got third party. So it's really not even in your hands some of the time.
Oh, yeah. In solos, if there's 3 people left, you just have to hope that maybe you were in the right place so that where they fought first, or maybe they just made the decision to fight the other person. It's just there's things that will determine the winner of the game that you have no input in. And so you could be the best player ever, but consistently winning in solos against the best of the best is impossible, because you really, I mean, you could be in the best position and still someone's going to airstrike you when they could airstrike someone else, or it's just, there's so much that can happen that you don't decide yourself. And so when you're going into those tournaments, the solo one specifically, just keeping a level head and being chill is definitely the way, to consistently get into that top area, competing for the win for sure.
So what about when it comes to putting out content on short form? Because there's a lot of people who love hating on the way, if you upload to TikTok, it'll sometimes take off, and then on YouTube Shorts it'll flop, or the other way around. How I know you were reciting the viewer count that you had back in the time. I'm assuming that you know a lot of your numbers that you go through, and do you put a lot of importance on the numbers that you get when you upload, shorts or videos themselves?
With shorts, I still haven't really capitalized. I'm a big fan of, I consume a lot of long form content, and I always have. I know shorts are such a dominant, there's been so many people who have blown up from short form. And so I wish that was more short form designed as a person. I put a lot more effort into long form content because that's what I consume myself. That's what I'm best at. But in terms of short form, I definitely do not hate on people that put more of their effort into short form. I think just staying consistent, I think I post 3 shorts a week right now, 2 maybe, but staying consistent where you're posting stuff that not just to post, you're posting quality stuff can really lead to growing on whatever platform you want to grow on. But I definitely favor myself long form, and so that's just what I put the most effort in. When I get off stream, I'm making a YouTube video, and then can I make a short out of that video, or can I make a short after today's stream? If not, then I'm not going to force it. We'll try again tomorrow. That kind of thing. Yeah,
that's fair enough. And look, a lot of an aspect about the content creation thing, which I'll tie back into the competitive side as well, is I want to bring it up, is the Art is War audio, which sounds a lot different. And I've heard Joe say that he doesn't like using it on stream because he wants to capture gameplays that sound like they regularly sound. Where do you stand on the Art is War audio in terms of being a competitive advantage? Do you think it should be allowed in customs and all that kind of thing?
It's so tough to ban something that's not just really visible to see, because there's so many levels of using that audio. I use Art is War's audio right now, and mostly because everyone else does. You're at a big disadvantage if you don't. But I also have my front turned up, which is if you have set up Art is War audio before, basically you're just turning up your own sounds. So I turn up my own sounds really loud, so it kind of sounds like I have the regular audio mix, just better footsteps. And I really do think right now in customs you are forced to use it because other people are using it. I don't think we're going to be able to use it for the LAN event, so I don't think that anyone should be using it really. If they could find a way to make it to where it's easy to tell if people are using it or not, then I mean I've got no issue. If people are using it, I'm going to use it. If they ban it, I'm completely fine not using it, because whatever we're going to be using in the World Series of Warzone this year, I'm completely fine with practicing for now, because it just makes more sense that way. So I hope that they do find a way to ban it, but it seems like right now it's tough to.
Yeah, I think if you're in customs and you don't have it, you are at that disadvantage. For pubs, not so much. I mean, you can play however you like, but it'd just be nice if maybe you could hear the footsteps without having to download and customize all these different things anyway.
Yeah, which comes down to like a game issue. Like I really do think that they could make the audio could be better. I mean, you could put the flex perk on and the audio is pretty good. Just, fine tune that a little bit more and make that the audio.
So what kind of advice would you give Bread from, say, 5 years ago as you're getting started in the streaming world or content creation world? What's something that you could go back and tell yourself?
I mean, this may not be what people want to hear, but you could be the best content creator ever or have the best ideas ever, that kind of thing. But if you're not staying consistent and doing it a lot, I mean, you could post one video and it blow up, or you could post 20 videos that are great quality, but just people didn't watch it, or for some reason so and so happened. You just have to not value yourself based off of the numbers that you have. If I posted Twitter clips for 180 days straight and never got a like on any of them, the only likes I got were follow for follow. It's like, as long as you're posting stuff that is making you motivated, you're proud of, then that's the most you could do. I would not start streaming or posting or making content as a surefire way to make money. Do it because you play these games anyway, and you have good clips, or you're funny, or that kind of thing, and you want other people to see it. But like getting into streaming and in long form content for the wrong reason can just lead to nothing happening.
A lot of disappointment too.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone that you kind of look up to in the scene? I mean, it could be like personality wise, or the way that they carry themselves in their content, or anything like that.
I mean, Joe for sure. In that first interview when I won that Twitch Rivals, they interviewed me and they said, like, who is someone that you'd love to play with in the main event? And I was like, dude, I'd love to play with Huskers and Joe Woe, because it was like those guys seemed so far away from me as a person. I still felt like a viewer, but now it's like I could message Joe or whatever. I mean, we live super close together. It's like being able to kind of talk with your heroes per se in terms of the content world often, and learn things from them. Joe has taught me so much. He's very level-headed. He's a very chill guy. Consistently, everything could go wrong in his stream, and he'd still be like, "Oh, dude, let's just have a good game here." It's taught me a ton, and I think that's one of the reasons why we do so well now in customs. Is we're very level-headed. And if something goes wrong, we're going to figure out a way other than complaining, because the more complaining you do and that kind of thing, it's not what people will watch, and it's also not going to help the situation at all. And so I definitely think that Joe has taught me a ton in terms of content creation. He's definitely what I looked up to for sure.
I mean, you guys obviously meet up every now and again. You go to each other's places and things. Just for anyone who's watching, how much do you spend when you're in person together with somebody like that? How much time do you spend talking about the game and things like that? And how much of that time do you just want to switch off and just talk about regular people stuff?
Yeah, so it's like there's a balance, because we really don't have time to do a lot of regular people stuff, so it's tough to talk about, like, what do you do this week? Well, I mean, what I did this week, so it's like, there's a balance. We often talk about the game, but in more of like a friend type talk, like, hey, you're playing today, that kind of thing. Not like, oh, dude, I can't believe in this patch note section 1.1 this happened. It's like it's more lax. What we did this week is probably play Warzone, so there's definitely Warzone being talked about, there's definitely streaming being talked about, but there's also whatever else is happening in life. I definitely think that we're not meeting up and talking about what we could just be talking about on stream. It's more or less just being friends and hanging out.
Do you find for yourself personally that you have like a good, a balance between when it comes to switching off and forgetting about stream content, life of a content creator and all that kind of thing? Or is it 24/7 for you?
I think I switch it off too well, honestly. Like there's sometimes like even today, I didn't stream today, and so when I go live tomorrow, I'm gonna feel like I haven't streamed in like 2 weeks. Like if I take one day off, I feel like I'm old. Like I feel like I've never streamed before. So I definitely think that I almost do too much, which could be bad because I mean if you have to take 2 days off, if you're sick and you take 2 days off, 3 days off, when you want to come back, it's like, dang, do I press the go live button? Like, you almost feel like not a streamer anymore. And that's kind of the competitive nature of streaming and how parasitic it is. Like you have to be live at all times of the day. You have to stay consistent because if you're not, someone's going to watch someone else. There's definitely a give and a take with streaming.
Do you feel that, is that a pressure for you, or it's pretty much just something you've come to terms with?
I think it used to be a pressure. Like there was definitely, I would, before I went live, check who all was on, do the math. Like I could tell you how many viewers I'd be on based off of who was on because I knew who I shared viewers with and that kind of stuff. But now it's, for my mental, I just get on and go live because it's like, I don't want to base what I'm doing around what other people are doing because I just feel like that long-term wouldn't work out for sure.
Well, I think whatever it is that you're doing a great job at it. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to chat to us on the podcast today. We're going to go do some rapid fire questions and some other fun stuff somewhere else. But I appreciate you taking the time to tell us about your story, Brett. It was a huge pleasure.
Legend, man. It's the least I can do. I love to talk, bro. I love to talk.
Head to the Patreon now to see some fun and interesting rapid fire questions, as well as Brett's reactions to some of the strangest, nicest, and weirdest comments from his socials. If not, thank you for joining us for this episode of Unfiltered. Be sure to check out some of our previous amazing guests and subscribe so you can find your way back for the next one.